Hey, welcome back to Open Studio. All right. All right, so something happened while you were away. um, the edge of this got damaged, and what's happening is I just dropped this in the little folder that I keep it, well, supposed to keep it safe in, but it took some damage. So I'm going to fix that first. I know we said we're going to move on to the wheels, but fixing stuff in these blades is kind of the way that these things go. Is not much, I mean, yeah, that was an accident that could have been avoided. If I had left it like out of the folder, it wouldn't have taken damage along the edge right there. However, this isn't, I'm not constantly working on this painting, so it's actually safer in the folder when I'm not working on it than leaving it out. But that's you run the risk of something like that happen. And what it is the paint is really thinnest along the edges. The edge of the blade, like up here where it's damaged, and along the edge of the handle and stuff. So stuff happens. So what we're going to do is it's actually really pretty easy repair because it's so micro small. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. So just going to grab some black to start. And this is opaque black from Createx. Opaque jet black. And I'm going to start by fixing the window molding here. That's going to be the first thing to fix. The blue is going to be a little bit more tricky. So I'll do that. And then since I have the black in the brush, there's a little tiny bit of damage over here too. I really have a frog. I don't know where that came from. I've been fine all day. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of gray. I'm going to go a little bit lighter than I think I need to start because I can always darken it. I just got the blue kind of crept into it, so I got to be careful not to grab into the blue. And with these type of repairs here, it's just a matter of not painting the whole thing, just like putting a paint stroke here. It's really about just repairing the damage, just trying to get the paint in where the damage is. That's going to make the most seamless repair. If I run the brush right down and just fix the whole edge, you're going to see the line. But if I kind of dab it in, it'll kind of work. So that's all fixed. So again, it's not a big deal, and it happens all the time, but you just got to kind of work with it. All right, so again, it's cobalt blue in the windows and all the blue areas. I have it written right here. So I'm going to use cobalt blue and white to kind of make a repair. This has a lot of stuff in it. I don't know what this is either. Well, it seems violet-y. You know what I'm going to do? I can't remember which one is phthalo and which one is cobalt or blue violet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out another drop of cobalt blue just to make sure that I've got what I'm supposed to have here. Better to be safe than sorry, If I grab the wrong color and try to do this repair and then I have an off blue color, you're definitely going to see it. And I don't want that. So here we go. So how is your Wednesday going? Everything good? Hope so. All right, so that's cobalt blue right there. So I'm going to grab cobalt blue. Yeah, so I think that is cobalt blue. I think it just kind of got diluted by the wet palette to the point that it doesn't really look like what it should, but that's okay. All right, a little bit of white. Let's see what we come up with. This may be too dark, but so the same thing happens here with this repair. I don't want to just like paint it, especially in the window area, because this window area is a fade. I did this with the airbrush, so I'm going to be trying to kind of sneak this in there to fix it. So I'm going to add a little bit more white. I need a little bit more opacity here. I need to dry out the brush a little bit so you can't really see it, but off the side of the board, I'm just kind of paletting out the brush, removing excess paint. I'm going to start by just kind of stippling it in, just not painting with it, but just putting a little droplets of paint. I'm essentially trying to do what the airbrush does by putting those little tiny atomized paint droplets on here. And it's, like anything, there's a lot of patience that's involved, but if you take your time with this part of it, it saves a lot of time. Because what I could do also is I could mask, grab the cutout and just respray this blue, but this is just as easy to do this. Or for me, it's a little bit easier, because I don't have to mix up the blue in the cup and, And then if there's any overspray, you know, onto the red, I'd have to fix that and blah, 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 blah. So this is just a good way to do it. And I'm just kind of concentrating on this edge of it, the side of it, because this is the darkest blue. When I get to the fade, as it starts to fade over, I can add a little bit more white to my mix right here. And again, if I use this little stipple technique, it really blends everything well, you know. And then I can use like this next lighter color. I should palette that a little bit better. It's a little bit wet, but I can use this next lightest color and just kind of start moving into the spot that I just did a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit. And that helps blend it and make it look like that fade is there. All right, that's about as far as I can go before I have to add more white. I added water to this wet palette, and I added too much water, so that's it's not great. I mean, it's an easy fix, but it involves me moving the wet palette, and I don't want to do that right now. Essentially, just pick up the wet palette and you carefully like lift the whole thing, move it over to, like, I have a rinse cup right below it. I can move the whole thing to the rinse cup and just kind of drain off the excess water. But again, to do that right now is not that important. All right, so as this is drying a little bit darker, so I can see that it's a little too dark. So that's where this next color is going to help. So the same thing. Now this might be too light, but we'll see. So I'm going to palette that off really well. I'm just kind of pulling all the blue paint out of there. And now I can just kind of go in the areas where it's the darkest, like where it got too dark. And again, just kind of stipple over it. And that will help me adjust that area so it starts to look more like, you know, what it should. And actually, that's not light enough over this side. So we're going to grab a little bit more white, and this time, since I've got blue in the brush, I'm not even going to touch the blue here. I'm just going to palette what I've got with the white and do the same thing here. Now there's a couple really darker spots here. So I've got a super pale blue here, and I'm just, again, I'm not painting, I'm just touching it. Just kind of stippling it on, and that will give me that kind of airbrushy look. And that's pretty much it. That's the repair. Again, you guys can probably see it because you're super close, but as you lean back, like if you're like, you know, I don't know, 10 inches away, you can't see that repair. So we're in good shape, and that's all it takes. I try to do those repairs as I see them, because if not, sometimes I forget them, or, you know, whatever. It just gets kind of bumped around till the end, and I don't want that. All right. So the other thing I was talking about was the wheels. Now, in rewatching the videos, I was thinking about this whole thing, and actually, let me switch to the photograph here real quick. So you see that shadow of the tree in the back wheel, like the whole rear quarter. It really makes the back tire and wheel really dark, where the front one is directly in the sunlight. So I talked about kind of mixing the two and coming up with something between, and I think that's going to be the way to go on this to really make it work. So so that's kind of what we're going to look at now. Yeah, because let me get the wheels in. Normally, let's jump back. Normally I would do the body, you know, finish the body and then put the wheels in, but I kind of want to get rid of the wheels, because if I can finish the wheels, then that way I can kind of finish the shadow underneath, which really needs to be done. And then I could put the details in on the door and all that. But we're getting real close. This is real close. Yeah, if I knock out the wheels, that's the next big thing. It's going to fly after that. All right, the wheels. So I've already got them kind of locked in here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to have to cut out a template, because I'm going to want to have to see where some of the details are in here, and that'll help me really kind of get things locked in. So let's do that. So I'm going to move this right now so it's not in the way. Slide the cutting mat over, because we're going to cut some templates here. So these templates, the one I'm doing for the wheels really isn't to block it in or anything. This is really just for details. This just gives me an idea where things are, so I don't have to guess and keep kind of bumping them around. So for instance, what I'd really like to know is where the edge of this, the actual wheel is, where the wheel and the tire meet. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along the edge of the wheel and kind of north, south, east, and west. Not all the way around, obviously, because if I did that, then the thing would fall out, and I don't want that. I actually want the line. So kind of, again, north, south, west and east is what I'm doing here, and I'm just cutting on the line where that tire and wheel meet. It happens again on the front wheel, which is great, but you can't see as much of it because it's kind of the perspective kind of bumps it around. Now that was a pretty bad cut, so I'm gonna have to kind of keep that in mind when I spray this. So this is really just north and south is what you can see, and then I'll cut another template for the other details, but that's a good start right there. The other thing I can do, since I'm going to be painting in darker lines, is I can take this opportunity with this template to kind of start putting in things like the body lines on the side and like the top of the window there, and also, why not, we could put in the little vent on the hood, which is right on the side here, because all these are pretty much black anyway. And then that's what I got. Hopefully you can see that. So that's going to give me a lot of the lines that will kind of help us put things into where they should be. And since I'm in the ballpark, we'll put the top of the door handle in too. I want that body line. Yeah, why not? This is a little bit, this one isn't as dark as the other ones, but I'll still be able to drop it in. Whoops. So that's it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up this a little bit. So all I do is just kind of like, I flip the knife over backwards, and I'm just running it carefully through that cutout. Let's do, I think that's the only one I want to do. The wheels, I think, are okay. What that does is it opens up the cut a little bit so that paint can get through there a little bit easier. So, all right, good. Back to the painting. Back to the painting. So on the intro with that sci-fi intro, that's a YouTube thing. They do that. There are different ones to choose from, but I really like the sci-fi one. But I'm tempted on trying different Premiere intros. So if it wasn't the sci-fi one today, you'll know what happened. All right, I gotta be able to see underneath this so it's lined up. Huh, wow, that never happens when I get in the first shot. All right, same thing. I put a couple magnets on that, but I'm gonna have to really do a good job of holding this down, especially here, because that is, again, the handle of the knife blade, razor blade, whatever we're working on. What are we working on? I don't know. All right, I shouldn't do that either when you slam the magnet onto the blade, even though it's got a copy on it. That's how you damage it too. All right, so this is opaque black, straight up opaque black. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of keep my finger on this to keep it down, because if I just spray over this copy, some of these cuts, especially like the one on the body here, it's long or longer. So the copy's gonna wanna kind of flop up. So same thing with the wheel. So I just wanna kind of keep my finger on most of it and then just spray a part of it at a time. And then, like, for the bottom part of it, I can use the meat skewer to kind of hold things down. Remember, this is just to give me an idea where the edge of that wheel is, where the wheel meets the tire. So that's why, again, I don't have to go all the way around with the cut, because I'm going to do it with the paintbrush. So the body line here is another one. I want to make sure that that stays down so it's nice and clean. And this one, again, I opened this cut up a little bit, so I'm going to really take my time with it, just kind of go really slowly back and forth on it. And the same thing, I don't need to like make it super dark because I'm going to end up painting on it anyway. All right, the front wheel, just going to lightly hit the front wheel, because remember, I kind of went a little bit wonky on the cut, so that's not a great cut, so I don't want to invest in that one too much. This body line on the top is the same thing. It's more in shadow. It's not really like black, so I don't want to hit it. Now the window up top here is a different story. This is really really dark. And the same thing with the hood scoop, you know, the vent on the hood scoop, that's really black. So I can kind of hit that. And I think that's everything, right? Body line, wheels, window, yeah, okay. If I was smart, I would try to lift this up to see what it looks like without removing it. So if I need a little bit extra. Ah, I do. I'm glad I didn't move that. Did it move? No. Okay. So that's, you know, if I'd just taken it off, then I'd never get it lined up again. So it was a good thing that I kind of held off, because now I can hit it again a little bit. Same deal, you know, just kind of take my time with it, let the paint kind of blow through those cuts. Obviously I'll have to move that magnet in a second, but for now it's okay. And this last one, I'm just going to take it right off because I don't need it. Good. Let's see what we got. This one, I mean, this is going to be it. I can't add much more black to this, so I'm going to take this off now. Yeah, that looks good. Again, I would have never guessed. See, that's why you do this, because like where that wheel is, like I wouldn't have guessed that's where it is. And actually, yeah, I was going to say, I really feel like those are wrong, but I'm going to go with it. I'll see what happens. All right. So now, the center, you know, the spokes and everything. I don't know that I can cut that out. We're gonna have to, yeah, we're gonna have to manually do this. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do this manually. I'm gonna take my copy here. So the way I do this flip trick. So right now the paper's flat, right? Just, you know, out of the copier. But I'm gonna need that to kind of flip up a little bit. So what I do is, I'll usually do this on the edge of my Visionaire, but I'll show you with this ruler here. Just like you would do with like the ribbons when you're wrapping a present, you just kind of hold the paper up against a hard, straight edge, and you give it a little bit of a turn, and that gives it this curl. So, and what that does is it just helps you. It helps me flip it. You know, if it doesn't have that curl, it'll bend. So now I may not be able to do it with this copy because I'm going to need something to hold it down. But I think I can get away with it because I'm working on the wheels, not on the back side of it. So I want to make sure this is lined up really, really well. Yeah, I'm gonna need a bigger copy for this because I can't grab it. It's too small. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna grab the photocopies here. I said I'm gonna grab the photocopies here. There they are. I'm gonna have to sacrifice 2 of the copies. 3 of the copies. I'll show you why. So we'll cut out a strip this way, I think. We'll grab 3 of them all together. Yeah, I'll grab 3 all together. What's going to happen here now? Now I got plenty. So I got plenty of paper here to hold on to and nail down. So the other thing too is if you have a strip like this, all you have to do is use your fingers and it curls it too. So again, the curling thing only just makes it, you know, work a little bit better. So we're going to line this up. This is a much better idea because this is so much easier to line up with the extra paper on it. Here we go. Oh, that front wheel is seriously wonky, which is good. This is why we do it. What the? Is it really that off? Again, this is why we do it. So what I'm doing, and I've said this, I mentioned this before if you've watched me do this, I pick like a spot in the back, like those tail lights are really sharp and clear, like this, the tail lights on the driver's side. And then I'll pick like something in the front, like the wheel, something really bold. And by lining both of those 2 up, the whole thing is lined up. So that's how I kind of go at it. So I start by lining up the left side, getting that where it should be, and then slide over to the front, and then I can kind of just pivot it on the left-hand side. Yeah, that's good. Now, because it's done, I really want to make sure it stays, so I'm going to put a jumbo magnet, Jumbotron magnet, and now that's not going to move. I don't need all this paper either. This was a nice thing, but I don't need all of it, so we're going to sacrifice that one. Now I've got enough that I can get my fingers under there and flip it, and it's not in the way. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, there's all kinds of fun stuff going on here. All right, but this is how you get it. So I'll do this so you can see it a little bit too. Because I'm over this side. I'm on the right-hand side of this, so when I flip it, you know, it's easier for me to see. But if you kind of get the idea if I'm doing this, see how you can see how, like, for a split second, you still see the image, the photocopied image on the painting, because your eyes just kind of do that, and it helps you kind of like make decisions on those, you know, really tight detail areas. All right. So I think enough of this, the wheel is in, that I can kind of lay this out. So I'm just going to kind of start with the front wheel, and I really feel like that's, I mean, it's lined up. I just don't have the front of this right at all. Huh. I'm lamenting, folks. I'm tempted to just fix the whole front end, and I think we're at a point that I can do that. You know, I was going to put the wheels in, but it doesn't make any sense to put the wheels in, but I don't feel that's lined up either. What is going on here? Sure, they say doing these are easy. All right, let me see, because I don't feel like the bottom's lined up either. So back is lined up, unless it's shifted. It might have shifted, which makes sense, because it felt like it was really far off. Yeah, it did shift. All right, I feel better now, because I'm like, that seems like it's way off. Like the painting part is way off, and it isn't. It isn't as bad as I thought. Okay, good. It is bad. Like there's extra in the front that's got to go. Do I want to do that? I do. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start working on the nose of the car, which means I'm going to use some of the background color. Yeah, still on. And again, we just did that repair with the gray. So I'm going to grab a little bit more. Well, where did I put it? Over here? It is here now. So I'm going to grab some gray, and that's pretty dark. There. Yeah, that wheel is way off. The front of that is way off. The reason why I was just kind of like waffling back and forth on what to do here is because I could put the wheel in, but you know, the wheel, if the wheel well is all wrong, I'll paint the wheel in, and I'll have to, you know, kind of work around the incorrect wheel well. So if I fix the wheel well, then I can put the wheel in correctly, and then it's done. You know, I don't have to mess with it. So I'm looking at that front edge of the car right now, and I'm just making sure I have the front end lined up. And I know that I fixed this. I guess you could call it a fix, but I really made it a little bit worse. So it's a little bit more gray. I also have I can feel that there's some brown in this too, this color, and I know I only used black, but I think because it was so reduced that you can see the brown in the jet black. So I'm adding a little bit of brown to this too, because the paintbrush has a different feel than the airbrush does. So we're just going to kind of bring that front end in, which is good because the front tire and the background kind of blend together there a little bit. So that's a good thing yeah, because this front end is not where I have it painted. Looks like the gray I used to block in the wheels was just off. You know, wasn't in the right spot. So we are going to fix that. And that's why those little lines that I just put in, sprayed through, don't even look like they're in the right spot. They're like all over the place. Now I am going to use this color too on the tire itself. So I'm going to start reclaiming this front tire. Now, obviously, like I said before, the problem with doing this right now is I now have to be real careful with this edge of the painting as I finish it, because it's going to be prone to damage like the window was earlier and that kind of thing. So, so ideally, it would have been nice to, you know, just kind of work on the back tire first, but you know, you can bounce around as long as I know that, you know, I got to be real super gentle and not put my fingers all over this side of it. So I just kind of hold it in place for a second, and then I flip it up real quick, and then I can still kind of feel where that line was, where the edge was that I'm trying to get. So I'm pushing that tire back up because it was in the wrong spot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit lighter version of this for the highlight, because we might as well kind of start locking everything in. So the bright part of the tire is on this side. And I said we would have the wheels done in this episode. Sure. Best laid plans, kids. Best laid plans. We're going to have to start getting the frame ready. So what's going to happen is at usually halfway through the painting, I start working on the frame for these, because the razor blade paintings need they have their own kind of special framing that I do for them. And usually I get that started about halfway through the painting. So what's going to happen, because Open Studio is Open Studio, there will be a episode where it won't be painting, it'll be getting the frame started, which will be fun. So so you get to see, and you guys are going to see it all. The raw frame right from the, you know, not from the actual sticks of wood. I've already cut the frame rails, and we don't have to do that, although that would make a good video too. But I've already got the frame for this already ready to go. As far as, you know, the individual pieces cut, well, you'll still hang out with me when I glue them all together and do all that. So, because that's what Open Studio is. Open Studio is, like I said, you're with me from beginning to end on the painting. So that includes framing on these, because they're so specific. Like, I've never sold a razor blade painting without a frame. It's just, I don't, not that I don't, I mean, all right, so it's not that I'm unwilling to do that. Like, if someone says, hey, I have this really specific idea for framing this thing and I'm really excited about it, you know, that's a different thing. I just don't want to drop one of these paintings into someone's hands that maybe isn't familiar with, you know, how to frame something weird like this. So it makes me feel better. All right, so that's the light part of the tire. And now I'll work on the inside of the wheel. Same color, just a lighter gray. So what I'm doing is, instead of getting overwhelmed with this, like, because I know what the wheel looks like, but translating that onto this little tiny, tiny area, you know, it's not cut and dry. It's there's you understand what you're looking at, but it's not necessarily what you think you see, which is why these things are so difficult, because you have a small painting like this and you say, oh, those are wheels, so I'll paint wheels like I know wheels look like. And when you do that, then all of a sudden it doesn't look right. And you're like, I don't understand why that doesn't look right. Because our brain's translating what we're seeing and telling the rest of the story, which is one of the great things about the human mind. You know, it just kind of does that for us. But on the other side of that, it can hurt if you're trying to tell the story, you know. Your brain is jumping in and saying, no, but this is what I know it is. And when you do that, it ends up not looking like what it should be. It's kind of a neat phenomenon. And what you can always see it in, like, kids' drawings. Kids, like, when they draw like a box of cereal or a house, young children will always draw, like, you'll see more sides of the house than you really can, you know. Or when they draw a lake, the lake is not laying flat. It's like this round circle that looks like it's sitting up on its side. Or the sun is tucked way up in the corner and it's just up in the corner and sitting there. So that's because they're, you know, a child's brain is telling them what it should look like, rather than, and they're, you know, they're ignoring what they see. So anyway, sure. exactly that. All right, I think I'm going to leave it right here. We'll pick up where we left off next week. But now we're getting in the nitty gritty with this. And again, once you get the wheels done, this painting is going to fly. So, all right. So if you enjoyed this, like I hope you did, you can do what these lovely people do if you'd like to help out around here, and you can sponsor what we do, either on Patreon or at right here on YouTube in the membership. You get some cool perks in both, so so please do that. And if not, the freeway is extremely excellent as well. So if you just click that like button and the subscribe button, that would make me really, really happy. All right, kids. I will see you guys next week. This is Steve Leahy, Open Studio, and his Shelby blade.